and welcome to this edition of Talkin Blues. Today we're going to talk more about jazz blues soloing and building on what we discussed in the last lesson, which was including extensions in your solo phrasing. This time we're going to take it a step further with alterations. Now, using terms like extensions and alterations right away has a certain amount of an intimidating factor to it because it sounds very technical and kind of intellectual and theoretical, but it really doesn't have to be any of those things. Instead of approaching it from the perspective of understanding the whole concept of jazz harmony and how the notes are applied and how they create tension and resolution and all that, which is all true and all very valuable, we're going to take it from the perspective of street jazz, which is you're going to play off of the shapes of the chords, you're going to use your ear, and you're going to build these sounds into your phrasing in a much more intuitive way. And once you've learned some phrases that include the sounds and you really kind of have them lodged in your vocabulary, then as you study them, it'll make a lot more sense, okay? So with that thought in mind, what we're going to do is start with a typical kind of a jazz blues harmony that includes altered sounds in the rhythm, and I'll show you some of these chords. Real common in a jazz blues comping style or accompaniment style. You see in figure 1, we've got a blues in B flat, and it includes extensions and alterations combined. And so you get sounds like this, where you've got B flat, and then now that second chord there, putting a name on it, that's B flat with a raised 5th and a raised 9th, right? Sounds pretty intense. There's the flat 9, and then you resolve, right? That's a typical way of creating tension and resolution in jazz blues harmony, where you're setting up the next chord with a chord that sounds by itself kind of out, kind of weird. But when you resolve it, it sounds nice and complete. In other words, it comes home. So, okay. Now, just taking that little example there, when I build a phrase around it, I can start with a typical blues phrase. And then here's my extended chord. I literally play a lick that is built on the chord tones themselves. I'm not thinking about a scale, a diminished scale or an altered scale or anything like that. I'm just saying, there's the shape of the chord. Let me see if I can make a lick out of it. Right? And mess around with it. Now, if I didn't use the alterations and I went, that's pretty close right there. That's just playing blues, right? But with the alterations added, I've added some more color to my vocabulary by using the structure of the chord as my guide. So I'm, again, playing the shape, and I'm not even worried so much about the names of the notes, certainly not about the alphabetical name, is it a B flat or a G sharp or whatever. I'm just looking at the way it lays on the neck and how I can build it into my phrase. So it's really playing by ear and kind of playing by sight as well, looking at the chords. Now I land on that E flat chord. Now that's a stone cold 4-chord in 12-bar blues anywhere you slice it. So I can kind of play any old lick I got, really. So, right, it's uptown, but it's really just playing off the shape of the chord. And then now there I brought the 13th into it. And now it goes back to the 4-chord again in the harmony, and you see the E flat 9 followed by, that's an E flat 7 flat 9, which is actually, or by another name, E diminished, bringing you back to the B flat again. So when I play over those chords there, I'm kind of looking at the top notes of the voices as a da 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 da, and then I see the B flat 7 sharp 5, and now the diminished. Now, rather than thinking of it as a diminished scale or having to understand why the diminished chord is there, it's just there, and if I pick out the top notes of the voicings, it builds a melody into my phrase that makes sense. It fits perfectly with the harmony.